Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Raymond from the Course Café podcast. We're back, fresh new episode. Very excited about this one. I sat down with who I would consider a friend, Tony, over at Radry. He's over in the Midwest. He is the founder of White Dot Market, brand new. We get into all that though. Radry was one of those brands well before I started golf projects that got on my radar, just strictly based off of his design and taste around pop culture and his integration into golf. So really interesting story. He actually got his start in baseball, which is really interesting, building a pretty dominant brand well before he started Radry and got into the golf market. He'd been playing golf his whole life, but he comes from a family of artists, and clearly that has influenced some of his ambition and interest in the space. He's done a lot of work for your favorite brands and a lot of your favorite content creators in the space too, which has been really cool. Anyways, we'll keep it nice, short and sweet, but this is one of my favorite episodes that I've recorded. I feel like that each week now, just being able to sit down with friends and kind of hear about their story and what they're up to. So I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. Well, dude, I'm glad we were able to jump on. I feel like, and we were able to meet in person last year, which was wild. Finally.
Finally.
Seems like you are working on 100 things at one time. Like, what is something that you absolutely nerd out on that maybe we don't see on the day-to-day basis from like a social perspective?
Honestly, I feel like I'm fairly transparent with my life and, what I got going on. So obviously art has been a big part of my last year, I think. So just like getting familiar with the art industry outside of golf and just how galleries work and, up and comers to be inspired by and all this. But I feel like I'm pretty transparent. So like what you see online is what's going on.
What's happening in real time.
Yeah.
So how much of your time is being spent in product, and then also like in the art world of stuff? Because I feel like there's definitely some mixture there, but product is obviously way different than what's going on in a gallery specifically.
Yeah, I mean, so I have Radry, obviously. I would say that takes up 30% of my time, where I'm like trying to focus on product. And the last 6 months has looked a little different since I launched White Dot Market. So that's taken up probably 50% of my time. And then I do freelance stuff to, you got kids, so you understand, but, to pay the bills, basically. So, startup life is tough. So I do take on projects on the side that also keep me busy, just to keep things rolling.
So where did the White Dot Market come into play? Was that something that was always like spinning in the back of your head? Because you've dabbled in a lot of like that stuff in the past, and even just like putting out some one-of-ones on Radry, which has been cool to see.
Yeah, it was sort of like the stars aligning kind of moment where, so I've released print and art through Radry. It never really sat well with me doing that, because I do feel like there's a personal relationship that exists between the artist and the artwork. And so it kind of felt like I was hiding behind the Radry face a little bit when I was like releasing things that, I sign it with the Radry face and all that. And the other part of it was my mom. So my mom owns an art reproductions business in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's just a small little thing, small shop. But she had talked about potentially retiring at some point soon. And I always dismissed that because like she does a lot of, Susie's watercolors of her garden and stuff like that. And like I really enjoy what I'm doing right now. So it's like, not for me. But, the sort of art focus with Radry is sort of taking a life of its own. And so it's like, okay, well, I can maybe do that, but in golf. And then like also at the same time, this is end of last year. I did some branding for a private course, and, afterwards he's like, hey, do you do commission artwork? I see, your prints and things that you do at Radry, but like, do you do commission work? Because as we build out the course, we're going to have a big clubhouse. We're going to have a restaurant. We bought the hotel in town. We're going to have stay and play lodging. Like all of this stuff is going to need, artwork. And so it was like all of this stuff sort of happened simultaneously. And it's like a light bulb went off, and I was like, I need to not totally take the art from Radry away. Radry is going to always be inspired by the art. It was never intended to be the art is kind of what it is. So separating that and having its own platform, was just, it just sort of all came together in a light bulb moment. And you've always talked about, home goods as like as like a space within the industry that's kind of lacking. And so that's sort of my, toe in the water moment of starting with wall prints and artwork. And, now I'm onboarding other artists who are in like woodworking and
Mm.
landscape stuff. And so it's like, it's not just my stuff, which has been a lot of fun reaching out to tons of different artists and like photographers in golf. There's so many good ones.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Who are just, on assignments for jobs basically. So they just have terabytes of amazing images that are just chilling on hard drives. That makes me so sad
Yeah.
because they're busy with, their normal work life and like, they're paid to go out and shoot and stuff. So I'm like, let me handle all the back end stuff for you and we'll get you up. And it's been great.
That's so wild. It's such an interesting, because I can't tell you how many calls I've been on where in the background you see like the canvas art that people get off of Amazon, where it's like 3 pieces of some random course that they probably even never visited. Like that is just like the cliche background that you see. That's where again, like I always wanted to be an architect, so I had an appreciation for design, and then interior design was always like umbrellaed under that. From like where you exist, design is, I would say, like the anchor. Is that something that you've just always been interested in, or did your mom have a lot of influence in your early years?
Yeah. So my mom's side of the family, there's a lot of artists. Art was just, I've always been surrounded by it, with her business, especially like going to her shop, always art around because she's, shoots originals and then makes reproductions of them. So I've just
Mm-hmm.
like always been surrounded by it. I knew I was going to get into it at an early age. It's kind of funny. So in middle school, did you guys do like a career day where you like
Oh
answer a
yeah.
bunch of questions? Yeah. So you answer a
Yep.
bunch of questions and at the end, it kind of tells you what you're going to be or what you could be. Mine was artist. My friends would get like, I'm a lawyer and I'm going to make, 250K a year. I'm going to have Lambos and all this stuff. And they're like, Tony, what'd you get? And I'm like, I got artist and I'm going to make $600 a year. You know what I mean? So it was like, okay, I need to figure this out. So I actually tried architecture. I took some classes. That whole career day thing messed me up.
Yeah.
Uh, I tried architecture classes. I appreciate architecture. Wasn't for me. The blueprints and all the numbers scared me. Um, so I kind of like realized graphic design was a good sort of combination of like new technology, computers, but still artistic in a lot of ways. And so yeah, I went to college for graphic design and fell in love with it. Was fairly decent at it, and that was sort of my beginnings, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah, because I think one of the things that I've always been drawn to, just outside of how unique like the brand Radry is, it always felt like there was an intimacy there with like hand, as opposed to like graphic design, if you
Hmm.
will. And this is something I talked to Michael with at students. A lot of like the tastemaker unique brands, especially in golf, feel more like pen to paper. Where now I would say like that's kind of like your aesthetic, just because again, that's like your background if it originates in art, but you
Hmm.
use technology to kind of enhance or help explore like other ideas and stuff. I think for me, when I was in high school, I wanted to be an architect, graduated in '08. And it was just like, again, like the last time you ever wanted to get in the housing market. And then I went to go play college football. So that was like my weird redirect, where at the time, I want to say Oregon was the one of the only architectural programs on the West Coast. So I was really interested in going there, but I wanted to play football. But Oregon State and then Washington State were the only ones that were offering, I can't remember what they called it. It was a walk-on position that I didn't have to try out for. So then in my mind I was like, well, now I don't know what I want to do, because then I got a scholarship for a D2
Hmm.
at Western, and I went there. They obviously don't have any design or architectural programs, so I got into marketing. My first, before I ever declared, it was in psychology, and sociology was my minor, and I loved the classes, but I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. So then the just off the cuff was like marketing. That's how I got into brand, which kind of became like an architect of digital, I guess you could call it, or
Hmm.
storytelling, which is
Yep.
interesting. But yeah, I mean, when you get out of college, are you immediately exploring like what a career pathway would look like, or are you kind of testing the waters with where do I take things from here?
So I had a very similar experience actually with baseball. I was a
Mm,
baseball player growing up. I still play golf, but obviously I live here in Wisconsin where it's a very short weather window and the seasons overlap. And so I played mostly baseball. And it is a similar thing where it's like there's a couple good design schools. like state schools in Wisconsin that I could go to, but I'm not about to walk on to some of them, D3 national championship caliber teams. Just wasn't in the cards. So it's like, do I go play baseball and get a business degree like most people, or do I choose design? Luckily, I chose design. It was a good choice. But so I graduate in the middle of a recession. This was in 2009.
So
Similar
we're
to the
right there
housing.
with each other.
Yeah. So it was just like nobody's hiring these designers, graphic designers making flyers and all this BS stuff. And so I actually took a job back at the car wash that I worked at when I was in high school. So you could actually argue I was in a worse position because now I'm back where I was, but with mountains of student debt. So I was there, and which was actually good because it forced me to be like, okay, I hate this. So if the job's not going to come to me, I may have to figure something out on my own. And so that's kind of what happened. I was watching a Brewer game one night, and they sort of panned through the crowd, and it's the classic, fans wearing the corporate Brewers stuff. And it was like a light bulb moment of like, why doesn't a baseball brand exist that's cooler? Because like at the time I'm wearing like Quicksilver and Hurley, but a kid living in Wisconsin's never even touched a surfboard or skated a day in his life. And so that never always like sat right with me. And so quick Google search, didn't see anything. So literally that night I came up with the logo and brand name and a couple t-shirt designs for a baseball apparel brand. I have no experience in apparel at all. And so I sent that to my buddy who's a business major, and it's just like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? He's like, I love it. Let's do this. And I was like, okay, we're both broke. How do we do this? Luckily, he had a credit card, and we threw a couple grand on the credit card with a few shirts, and we never looked back after that.
That is so wild. Those early years were, even though like how tech forward and like savvy everything is today, even just like 10, 12 years ago was vastly different. And again, that's like been the common conversation where just even getting up a storefront was almost impossible with just in association with how easy it is today. And then the idea that when you finally do get everything live, the second half of the monster shows up where it's like, how do we get people to actually come shop for us? Was that like the case with you guys too, of like actually getting customers and like the marketing side of things?
So honestly, it was a great time for us because a couple things. So like platforms like Wix was like brand new. And so I was able to sort of navigate Flash. Our first website was completely Flash based and like didn't work on Instagram or Internet Explorer, which is like 80% of people use that. So it's like, sorry, we just removed 80% of our entire demographic. But at the same time, social media was still pretty new. Like Instagram didn't exist. There was Facebook, but Twitter was sort of like the one that popped off. And so we were coming out of college, we were like young enough to understand how social media worked, but old enough and mature enough to sort of run a business. So we just hit the ground running with Twitter. I mean, we were young and had no money, and it was free, and all I had was my time. And I'd be at the car wash, just like firing off tweets in the bathroom, in the middle, vacuuming a car. I'm just like responding to DMs, and we were doing like influencer marketing before that was a thing. So like,
really?
I was hitting up baseball players and like, let me send you stuff. There was like baseball accounts that had a lot of followers, and for us, it was a no brainer. Like we're trying to get follows, so it's like let's send these accounts product, and they'll post us, and we gain more followers. Like it's such a simple concept. And so that's
how long before Instagram popped up then?
This was 2011. So
okay,
I'm not sure when Instagram came out, but
I think it was 2013 or 2015, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Earlier, yeah.
So Twitter was our bread and butter.
Machine.
Yeah, because you could communicate people with like really easily. It was great.
Well, and Twitter was like sports dominant too. Like I don't think news was ever really a thing. Like it became like celebrities and stuff like started trickling in, but everybody was obsessed with sport because that was my favorite social media platform, just getting on there and like following your favorite athletes. And then that's where a lot of the sports takes started happening before even comedy started jumping on, which is a wild time. That was definitely the golden era.
I mean, we had being able to directly DM people was huge. Like we didn't have to work through agents. Like we could DM baseball players. I mean, sort of what launched us was I just cold DM'd Bryce Harper. This was like right when he was coming into the league. He had just done like he blew a kiss to the pitcher, like super polarizing figure. And
Yep.
I was like, we need him and stuff. But by this point, he's like been on Sports Illustrated. Like you can tell he's on a rocket ship.
Yeah.
So I just sent a DM and he hit us back with his address, and we shipped a bunch of stuff, and we didn't hear anything back for a while. And then randomly one night he's like, "Hey, turn on baseball tonight at 7:00." And so we
He
turned it
said
on.
that to you guys?
He DM'd us just randomly after like months. And so we turned it on, and sure enough, he's doing like an hour-long interview with Harold Reynolds, and he's wearing our stuff the whole time. And at the time, our stuff was like, so the shirt that he chose to wear was perfect because mind you, at this point, he's not in the league yet. Like he's just coming up. We did a shirt. It's so cringe, but it said Triple Crown status, and it had like a lion, and the lion had like 3 crowns stacked on his head. And so imagine this guy who's already super polarizing wearing a Triple Crown status shirt before even being in the league.
Good Lord.
I mean, that was all the marketing we needed, and that put us on a nice little trajectory.
That's hilarious. Now people go and Google like the usage of certain terms when people are like searching like what shirt he's wearing or trying to like find the attributes so they can track down the apparel that they're wearing. That happens all the time now. That's wild. That's hilarious. So then I guess where does golf come into the lens then, in terms of not even necessarily the Radry brand, but like the relationship with the sport, I guess?
Yeah. So like I said, I've golfed my whole life. My family golfs, my mom, dad, everybody. So probably 7 years into my baseball brand, I stopped playing baseball. Like I always played like competitive wood bat league up until I was like 25 or something like that. And so once I stopped playing baseball, I started playing more golf, like all retired baseball players do. And it was just one of those things where the brand is called Routine, Routine. We made it for the baseball player. Like it wasn't baseball fans. It was like for the baseball player. And so once I stopped playing and I was trying to design for like high school kids and like I'm getting older, I just started to lose sort of the passion I had for it a little bit. And I was like, I want to go golf. That's what I want to spend my time doing. And so it's just a natural progression of like, I want to do what I'm doing now, but in the golf industry. And so 2018, I left Routine and started Radry.
Interesting. So in those 7 years building the baseball brand, do you think you learned more how to build a brand or like even product and marketing? Because obviously your art degree, maybe you talk a little bit about marketing in a classroom environment, but like to learn that skill, especially as stuff is changing so much in the market with like social media and just the way that people interact, and mall culture is like on the decline. Like, do you think you learn more about product or how to build a brand, or is it a little bit similar?
Both.
I guess.
Yeah. It was both. Yeah. I mean, we bootstrapped the whole thing. So it's not like I was able to hire in designers. Well, we did eventually, but like early on, it's like it was just me and my buddy in the basement figuring things out. And so yeah, talking to factories, a lot of mistakes were made naturally, but you realize you start to pick up on the lingo and like what to do, red flags, all of those things you just figure out as you go, much like anything. And yeah, let's see, branding wise, I mean, I think marketing was the fun part about it that we were figuring out. Like, it's like, okay, we have a bunch of high school kids who now have cell phones. So like, how can we reach them, right? It's like social media, it's going to do its thing, but like, what are some other ways we can get creative? And like, our thought was if we could send them a message directly to their phone, that could be a game changer for us. And at the time, SMS marketing didn't exist, but you could make an app and you could send notifications through the app. So
wild.
Yeah. So we were like, okay, so how can we make an app? And at the time the app needed to serve a purpose in order to do that. So we came up with this thing called the Slanguage book, where it's like baseball lingo, and people could submit terms to it. And so that was like the reasoning for the app. But it was basically a shell for our website. Yeah.
Yep.
Then we could send off notifications to people and it would show up on their phone. Like, so figuring, like, being creative outside of just product was like a lot of fun to sort of navigate and like just solve problems. And yeah.
Where do you think that came from? Like there's a big difference between being interested in solving problems and being almost like handicapped and trying to figure out just to keep things moving forward, solving problems? Like those two worlds are very different.
I think I just really enjoy what I do and
Yeah.
what I did. Like I hired friends. So we ended up going from a basement. We were in like a 16,000 square foot warehouse, and it was like fantasy
Goodness.
factory. It was like, we had the projector with golden tea. We played wiffle ball and had a basketball thing inside it, and hired friends. Like, it was like a dream situation. So for me, it was like, how can we keep this going?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't necessarily about the sales, but the sales, kept the lights on and allowed us to keep doing this and travel and do all this fun stuff. So I just looked at it from a business perspective as much as I did as an artist, and, wanted to keep it going for as long as possible.
Were you exploring anything in the art sector at all, or was all your attention just towards that?
So, I mean, like a lot of my design, you could tell is art influenced. It's not so logo-y. A lot of it was, hand drawn or on the iPad or whatever the situation may be. So you can see the art influence happening at that time, but I
Mhm.
never released prints or anything like that until I got into golf.
Yeah. And then I guess the transition from when you decided to step away, was there like a waiting period, or did you just jump right into like, how can I get into this new category or this new sport similar to what you've been building, but the idea that these are completely different?
No, it had always been in the back of my mind, potentially doing both, like having baseball and golf, but I knew I needed to focus on it for it to be successful. And so that's why, like my business partner wasn't a golfer. So it just made the most sense to just sort of leave and start this on my own. But it had been, yeah, it's not like I left and was like trying to figure things out. This had been in my mind for a while. So I jumped right in as soon as I left. And I say jumped in, my wife was like 6 months pregnant with her first child at the time.
That's the best
So
way to
that
do it.
was, I mean, coming home and be like, honey, this great job I have, I'm leaving. It
Did
was
you
tough,
take any
but
time off or anything, or did you just jump right back into it?
I mean, part of the timing of it was so that I could be home with my now, new daughter. So like,
Mhm.
it was like stay at home dad, but like, startup life, I don't know. It was just the time I had with my daughter after she was born is like so precious, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad I had that. And yeah, I don't know, I think the timing of it, as hard as it was to say that to my wife, like I'm going to leave this, it was, looking back, it was the best.
Necessary. Yeah. I can't, I mean, the first 2 years of when your kiddo's around, because at that 2 year mark, like my youngest son just turned 2, that's when their personalities start to rapidly evolve. But those first 2 years are just something special that you literally can't recreate unless you have another
Hmm.
kid.
Yep.
But yeah, like those 24 months are so critical. I guess to that point, was there anything that you were like scared of jumping into like this whole new world that you were stepping into?
Oh yeah. I mean, I had this sort of like idea of what the golf industry was going to be, just like anybody else looking at golf from the outside. It's stuffy, private clubs. And I just made this assumption that people were going to not be so great. And I'm proud to say like that has been the complete opposite experience. Everybody's amazing. But yeah, I mean, scared. I mean, I'm scared every day. That's just part of the entrepreneurship, enjoyment.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, doing it solo too, it's always tough because I feel like I'm sort of creating in this sort of like echo chamber. Hard to bounce ideas off when you're just doing it by yourself, and figuring out the business side of things, inventories, scary, and just all of that. Yeah, of course it's scary.
So what year did Radry officially become Radry then?
2018.
2018.
So
Okay.
I launched 2018, and then shortly after I started talking to Eric Lang on Instagram. He didn't have a YouTube channel, or any Random Golf Club didn't exist at the time, but he liked what I was doing, and so I kind of helped, much like I am today, where I like do side projects for people, sort of keep the lights on. I did some graphic work for his YouTube channel, and then he pitched me the idea of Random Golf Club, and my ecom branding brain sort of went off, and I'm like,
Mm.
let me do the logo and let me run the e-commerce business while you handle media, which is what you're good at. You can go off and do your thing. I'll run the entire e-com part of the business
Mhm.
for you. So I did that in Milwaukee, and it just took off to the point where I had to make a decision, whereas like employee number one, creative director of this job that's, heading in the right direction. Do I do that or do I do Radry? And so I took the random golf club job. And so Radry kind of was put on hold from like 2019 until probably 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a gap where Radry was just put on the back burner while I was off in Texas running around.
That's when I think I followed, was pretty much right after you made the Instagram account. I can't remember what specific post it was, but I remember I saw it, and then it didn't necessarily go doormat because there was a lot of like, I don't even know how to say it, like not like rips on art, but like the conversions that you had in like pop culture and like your POV on golf was really, really unique. I hadn't seen that. And again, it just goes back to like your taste and appreciation for art. And then also I noticed what RGC was doing just in like visual identity was really strong too. And again, that timing was 2018, 2019. So you did move to Texas then. You lived out there for a minute.
Yep. I ran the e-commerce side of Random Golf Club for probably a year and a half. And they were in LA, and like I'm a Wisconsin boy, so I'm like, LA,
This
I
is
love
big.
visiting, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to move my family out there. And then they decided to sort of plant their flag in Austin, and I visited Austin, fell in love with the city, and so yeah, we made the journey down south and lived there for about 3 years.
Nice. That's wild. It's so insane, like how the what's happening behind the scenes. I don't think people realize like how small the space is, and then how much like everybody's also moved around too with some of these brands is really unique. But yeah, I think, and then with Radry, I noticed it started picking up probably when you moved back to Wisconsin. And what year
Yep.
was that? 2020?
That would have been beginning of 2023.
2023. Okay.
Yep.
Because
Right
I
when
think
we
we
had our third
moved.
child.
Yeah, because I was in California until 2021, and then we moved back up to Oregon, or 2020, 2021, one of the 2 years, moved back up to Oregon, and then I think you had moved up, and then that's when Radry was like starting to crank again.
Yeah, we had our third child, and we were just like, man, we need to get back to family.
Yeah.
We're officially outnumbered in the household, and like we need some help. So that's when we moved back, and I left my position at Random Golf Club and fired up Radry again, which was tough timing because like I missed, like I consider Radry to be an OG because like I was there like way before COVID and all that stuff. But at the same time, I also feel like a new brand because it's like Radry 2.0 came on, but by this point it's like the huge wave has happened, and now I'm like I need to like make Radry known again in a lot of ways.
How did you feel like you tackled that? Was it just
Honestly,
cranking out work?
Honestly, it was a blessing because so the early iteration of Radry was sort of like streetwear, very loose, right? It was just like because there wasn't much else going on since like Melbourne and Birds of Condor, I think. So it kind of made me refocus what the brand is, its identity, and really like nail that down, which has been the best blessing of all time. And so like this sort of art direction is something I decided to lean into. I was always kind of afraid of it, but yeah, I just decided to make that sort of my lane, I guess, and dive into what my values are and just keep things consistent.
That I think that was probably the thing that I noticed the most in that year and a year half gap, where it felt like it actually became like a real thing, where I wouldn't necessarily say it was a side project because there was so much intention that you could just even see on like that Instagram page and whatnot. And it was still at that point so unique, even through like the COVID pop, you still weren't seeing anything to the degree of that you were doing from just a pop cultural lens. Where do you think that interest comes from?
I've always been a fan of pop culture. Even like in our world, pop culture stuff just resonates with me. And then obviously, we have a lot of Instagram accounts that share inspo photos and things like that, So by this point, that style of posting, just like culminating inspiration and just like posting the images as they are, was getting a little watered down, I guess you could call it. And so I just wanted to sort of take my love for pop culture and just like turn it up a notch. And so how could I blend these inspiration photos that are just super dope and meaningful and impactful in golf, but do it in my sort of my own way, I guess. And so at that time I wasn't focused on product because I had a job and sort of a conflict of interest in a lot of ways there, but I could still use that account as a creative outlet in a lot of ways. So like if I had an idea for something, I just did it and posted it, and I felt better after posting it,
Yeah. So in terms of product, I guess, like when did you start exploring, like, was there a product line or even not necessarily a collection that you really was either cranking in the back of your head that you wanted to bring to life in that like 2022, 23 era?
I didn't really think much about Radry, to be honest. I was so focused on what I was doing. But I think what you noticed, the home goods section, I feel like there was missing sort of things, like a lot of apparel was coming in the market, and really dope apparel. And, people are doing incredible jobs with it. But I felt like there was just another element that was missing. So I did like Cause was as a good inspiration for me, like what he does from a art perspective, but then creating product around his style. Collectibles, those sorts of things always resonated with me as well. So I guess I had the ideas for, sculptures and things like that deep in the back of my mind. Really didn't come to fruition until I officially brought Radry back and really started to focus on like what I wanted to release and things like that.
How did you go down the rabbit hole of collectibles? Because that's a lot different than product. Even just like where you're sourcing and sampling. I don't even like. I'm not familiar with the sampling processes like for a figurine like that. How does that work?
It's intense, very expensive.
Yeah.
And so for me, it took a while to even get to the point where I could like afford to take the risk. Because like if you knew the money it takes to make these things, like my account,
I can't even imagine.
Like my account would be like, you're dumb. This could bury you. But I felt it was so important for what I'm about and what I'm trying to do that I had to take that risk. And if I could break even, fantastic. But yeah, I think it started with my prints, releasing the prints and like my early ones, like the Griffey swinging the club, the Jordan shoes on the green. Like there was a bunch of prints back in the day where I would do limited runs and they would sell out right away. And I feel like people resonate with the numbered things. It's like you get the print and it's like, I own number 7. There's like a personal connection there. And so it went from that to another project I did with Micron Milled where he made ball markers. And so he had been a friend of mine and we wanted to do something. And so he made me a bunch, like we were going to release stainless steel, brass, and then he sort of is known for these exotic wood inlay ball markers. And so for me, it was like, okay, I can get these made and I can put them on my website and I can take pictures and post them. Or I can sort of take this to another level and get creative in the way I market it and release it, similar to like my prints. And so speaking of collectibles, like my son had gotten, like his first pack of football cards.
Oh, we're in that era right now, literally in the thick of it.
Yes. Fantastic. And so like him opening it, he doesn't know the players, but I'm like getting excited. And like, what'd you get? And it just takes me right back to that nostalgic feeling and like being a kid and all that stuff. So I had this idea of taking these ball markers and doing a similar situation where they come in a trading card pack. I made like a foam insert. It came with a certificate of authenticity. But instead of releasing the ball markers and you could choose which one you want, it's like I did 30 stainless steel, 19 brass ones, and then like one person got the exotic inlay ones. So it was like a mystery pack. So that huge success, sold out in like 30 seconds. And so that's when I was like, okay, this collectibles, limited numbers stuff there's something here. And that's where the idea for the figurine, I got the whole family right here.
The whole fam, yeah. That is wild because I feel like it also matches with golf in the sense that like people really like to flex and showcase things that they know that other people aren't going to have because it's either limited or it's in that if you know type of ecosystem or conversation. And that is really popular in sneakers, obviously, especially when you have these limited collabs or releases or whatnot, and there's a number associated to it. That's something because I think I got a brass unit from the packaging and stuff that you had sent, and then I remember when you DM me, it was either an early sample or just the idea of a figurine, and I got so hyped because A, I knew that you were going to do it right, and B, I knew that you how much like passion that you had for the art side of it. And that was this like peak. What's going on in the home goods space, and golf just wasn't happening at the moment. So yeah, I was so
I mean,
hyped.
yeah, I remember you've been consistent with your home goods sort of, thing. And I would just remember hitting you up like, I'm working on it. And then in like 6 months would go by and you're probably like, okay, this dude's lying. I'm like, I promise you, I'm still working on it. I didn't plan for this to take this long to make, but yeah, I knew you'd be jacked about that. So
How long was that process? Like, where do you even start when you have a conversation with figurines? Like, are you in CAD?
no. So understanding material was a rabbit hole I went down, like vinyl and resins. And like, I thought maybe I could 3D print these things because that's pretty popular now and you can do different materials. And then like, oh, to do one this size, like it's going to take an hour to 3D print it and it's going to be like $200 each or something, like just astronomical. And then with vinyl, I found out like you need a metal mold. And so the mold to make it, is like tens of thousands. It's like insane.
10,000, 50. It's probably like a shoe mold.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's so expensive, but then once it's made, the pieces afterwards are fairly affordable. So it's like a huge initial investment. But for this is like experimentation mode. I can't invest into something like that if like it doesn't work. Like I'm screwed. So just talking with factories and like what options I have. We landed on resin because they could use a rubber mold, I believe, which is a lot cheaper, but the material cost is higher. So the trade-offs of being able to do a lower run, but cost a little bit more per it was worth it for me.
So
and they turned out like they're great.
Like where is like step one where you're like, okay, now I have an idea of what I want. Like who can bring this to life from an actual material standpoint? Yeah.
The factory.
Is that just a Google search and you're just running through factories?
Yeah, basically.
Oh my God.
I mean, there's like,
so stressful.
I mean, there's like, what is it? Cooler Yeti or whatever. There's like where you could backtrack packages, try and find out where Cause makes there. Like there's ways to, figure things out. Yeah, just reaching out to the factories. I mean, they know the most. So like, why wouldn't I just pepper them with all the questions I have? Because they're the ones that make it. So is the
sampling process similar, like in minimums and colors and all that stuff? Is it somewhat similar to like apparel and clothing?
Yeah, similar. They do like a 3D rendering of it. And the renderings are so real and accurate that, because by that point, once they make the rubber mold, you have to make a change. They have to make a new mold, and then you got to pay for that. So it's like once you get to that step, you better hope it's right. But luckily, the renderings are pretty dialed. And I want to say they make like a hand version of it, like with clay or some kind of like they make like a version of I don't know.
Kind of like cars. How it's that,
yeah. They make like a model version of it based on the 3D render. I don't know, or maybe it's 3D printed. I'm not sure. But they were able to make something that I could see before the mold. Because by that point, it's like hands off.
And you have to detail like size, like causes the 100% or 400%. Were you doing your sizes based off of some of the work that was already out there in the space?
Yeah, because I mean, collectibles is a whole industry in and of itself. So I wanted to sort of use language that was familiar, I guess. And so, yeah, this is like the 100%. So if I made a bigger one, I can do 400% or 50%. Like that's just language that's used in that world that I want to bring into golf for the people who are unfamiliar.
Yeah, my kids were obsessed when I got it. First, I was like, "Ooh, this is like a trophy. This has some real weight to it." I was like, "This is so dope. It's not plastic." And then my kids were obsessed, and I was like, "Listen, this is like one of the things that you cannot touch in my office because they think everything's a toy." I have an old LeBron like Space Jam figurine, and my son's always in here like trying to push the buttons. I'm like, "Listen, this could be potentially worth something in the future. Like, I know it's a toy, but you cannot play with this joint."
Oh yeah, my son just hit mine. I have one at home, and he hit it with a Nerf gun just yesterday, and it was wobbling. Luckily, I know the owner and can get a new one, but stressful.
That's so wild. The other thing that I appreciate too in the clothing side of the stuff is like the attention to detail. And I think that just comes from like your design background. You don't overlook or try to cut any corners. Do you think all those years of growing the baseball brand and then being so close to product at RGC, like that helped kind of initiate some of the direction that you wanted to do with your clothing? Because even just like a hoodie like this, I think people see hoodies and don't understand like cut and sew and just like all the finishing work that goes into building a brand too. Like all that stuff is work that happens behind the scenes that customers just don't have any real like access to or understanding of.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one thing I struggled with releasing prints through Radry, and why part of the reason why I separated off to a separate thing was I wanted people to take the apparel seriously. You know, like I never wanted to be an artist who made merch. You know what I mean? Like my background is in apparel design and production. Like that is my background. And so it just felt weird to do a print and then a week later release a performance jacket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like an expensive one where people are spending their money. I want people to like know, like, no, this is my background. I can do this.
Have an association. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so the apparel stuff also during the time of coming back into the industry where now you're with all of these big dogs that are like making really incredible things. I really needed to figure out a way where I could fit in without making like gaudy things. You know what I mean? It still needs to be wearable, but how do you compete with wearable with all these people who are making incredible things? And so I just leaned on my design language, like with the circle and the square and the logo, and doing really subtle things that you may not notice, like the elbow patches on the sweatshirt you're wearing. In like my performance jacket, I did the circle and the square pocket. So it's like really subtle, but still wearable. Like that's kind of the biggest thing.
Little Easter eggs that, again, from a design perspective, has like a cool little story hook to it, which is always nice. And it helps a lot too that the logo itself has so much play on. Like the universe of that is gotta be massive. Like what is the work that we haven't seen look like? Is there just terabytes of either mood boarding or ideas that you have in there that just haven't seen the day of life?
Honestly, no.
Yeah.
So like my time is limited when it comes to like working on all the things I'm doing. So when it comes to Radry, like I don't have the bandwidth to work on a bunch of things that can't come to life. So I'm very intentional with the things I work on. And you know, one of my foundation words, I guess, for Radry is experimentation. And so that's a big one for me as a perfectionist coming from like traditional graphic design background where it's like pixel pushing and like alignment and like fonts have to do this and colors and blah, blah, blah. It's important for experimentation to be a founding block for Radry because that brings out the art side of things where perfection is the greatest killer of creativity there is. And so for me to get over that hurdle, I need to be okay with releasing things that may be silly or dumb, but for the sake of just experimenting with ideas. So I'm not shy to pull the trigger on something that's really dumb. So I don't have a whole lot that's like that I'm like too afraid to release or I didn't like it or anything like that. It's all pretty intentional.
Real quick before we keep going, I want to pause on something. Tony's insight here around perfection being the killer of creativity and the importance of inviting in experimentation is such a great note, which makes this the perfect time to introduce the Style Pursuit presented by Bushmills Irish Whiskey. We're seeing so much experimentation in golf right now, a little bit on the tour with guys like Jason Day, who's been exploring his personal style with Malbon, to Nelly Korda, who's brought out a few new looks with Nike earlier this year that stirred the pot a bit. Those are the moments we remember, the ones that stand out from a style perspective, and none of them happen without the willingness to experiment. It's the same approach Bushmills takes with whiskey. Take their latest 26-year Crystal Malt, a product of patience and bold experimentation, years of refinement leading to something layered, balanced, and memorable. Overall, we're seeing that same patience across golf. Brands like Quiet Golf leaning into timeless simplicity, students bringing streetwear edge, Sugarloaf Social Club shaping specific style moments, and Manners capturing the adventure of the game itself. Like Bushmills, the industry is experimenting, and out of that patience and curiosity comes some of the most tasteful expressions of style we've ever seen in golf. It's wild how those same ideas of patience and experimentation show up in both whiskey and design. Let's get back to Tony and hear how that plays out in his work with Radry. That's a good point, because I think that was like the other, from a design language standpoint, something that stood out to me was it felt like uniform chaos, where like, I'm not a designer by any means, but when I see something, I feel like I have good taste and good aesthetic. Like your stuff doesn't necessarily look uniform to the point where everything's exactly the way that they're supposed to be ratio wise and whatnot, but it still is uniform. But there's still that like level of chaos that I think resonates with just your taste and design language. Is that, I mean, it sounds like it's intentional. Is that something that like you have to sit down and really focus on?
So it took a while to get to that point, to sort of accept that chaos. So a good example would be Para. Like Para,
Exactly.
he
Yes.
he
Yes.
came from graphic design background, or like art, I guess, and design,
Mm-hmm.
and created a brand afterwards. But he has a very distinct style. And so for me, I know that I want to be in golf for the long haul. Like this is something, a sport that I can play until I'm old, hopefully. And from a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to have a distinct style,
Mm-hmm.
to lean on for people to recognize and all of the things. But if I'm going to be in this space for a long time, I don't think I could do that because I honestly think I'd be bored. I think I
Yeah.
would like, I have too many ideas that I want to do that I think I would not do because it didn't fit a certain mold that I've created for Radry. So I think I'm like really leaning on this idea of experimentation,
Mm.
where and some stuff may come out of left field, but that's just like my creative thought process and like what has inspired me at that moment. And I don't want to be afraid to release it. And if it comes off as like weird or something like that, that's fine. I think that's going to be my superpower sort of moving forward. I think the chaos of it all.
Yeah. So what does that process look like? Is it pen to paper? Are you on a computer? And then like how close is V1 to like the final version that goes out?
So I'm actually not a huge pen to paper guy, which is, you would think so. I think obviously I paint on canvas and things like that, but
Mm.
that I reserve that time for that. And like, I try not to think about things and just like let it happen.
Flow
Um,
state almost.
yeah, flow state. And I can't think about it because it, ruins the imagination. I'm trying to, whatever. Um, so with design stuff, honestly, I can visualize things in my head pretty well. So like if I have an idea for a t-shirt graphic or a hat or whatever like that, I can actually, I do a lot of visualization. So I can like visualize how I want it to look. And so when I go to Illustrator or I'm drawing on the iPad, like it's, it's coming out as I'm imagining. I don't know how else to explain it. Like
No,
there's not
I'm
many
totally with
versions
you.
of it. Yeah.
Yes.
There's not many
Yes.
versions of it that take place. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I just know what the end is going to look like. And so when I hit the computer, it's just a matter of just doing it.
So are you in a raw file and then you move that to like a tech pack, or is it like, what does that flow look like?
I mean, I categorize everything on Pinterest. That's like where I hoard
Mm.
everything, and I've got a million boards for zippers and textures and whatever. They're private boards, so don't try and find them.
That's good because I've definitely found a lot of people's boards. I haven't shared it, but there's a lot of boards out there that
There
I
are.
found.
Mm-hmm. No, you can't find mine. I'll share it with you though if you want. Uh, so that's sort of where I categorize everything. So like if fall's coming up and I want to make some sweatshirts, I'll dig through and try and bring up moments of inspiration I had through things that I save. But what I try to avoid is being inspired by the internet. So
Mm-hmm.
Oren Meets World
Yep.
I was on a talk and he explained it beautifully where it's like the way the algorithm works these days, if you are on the internet looking for inspiration, you are going to be fed the exact same stuff that everybody else is drawing inspiration for it. And that's where mood boards all start looking the same and things like with the Under Armour situation happens. Like you have to get off of it.
Yep.
And so like for me, intentional observation is like my biggest inspiration, which is being out in the world and like it's hard to explain. So like if I say the last time you left the house, how many red cars did you see? You're gonna be like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe none, one maybe. But now that I mentioned it, the next time you leave your house, you're gonna be like, oh, red car, red car, red car.
Yep.
So intentional observation is like when I leave the house, I always have design and things on the mind. And so It could be the littlest thing that will inspire something, and I'll take a picture of it, make a note, put it on my Pinterest board for later. And then from that idea to making it happen is pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like a great example is the gas station collection.
Mm.
Like we have incredible golf here in Wisconsin, so I'm not afraid to drive 2 hours to go golf. Stopped at a gas station like I always do before a round. I grab my things, including sometimes the Slim Jim, and I'm at the counter and I see the rhino boner pills sitting there, and I just the graphic with the rhino is just like so funny to me. And so it's like snap, save, get home, and I'm like, God, it's just a stupid idea. It is a stupid idea, but we're gonna run with it. And so like that's where the gas station collection came from, and like everybody who ordered it came in like a thank you plastic bag with a Slim Jim. Yep. Like to bring you to that moment that I had just had not that long ago. And so like that's sort of the process. There's no like, okay, let me think about spring 26 and like it's going to be fall, like there's none of that. It's very instantaneous. Part of the reason because I don't have a team to sort of execute on like large collections and things like that, or the money. So yeah, there's a lot of instantaneous just ideas that pop up.
That's interesting. Yeah, because like my POV on the UA thing was, I mean, literally exactly what you're talking about, like lived experiences, where if you're just sitting in front of your computer 40 hours a week trying to draw from these mood boards and you're not out in the world like living life. Tinker Hatfield talks about this a lot, where he's a big pen to paper guy, but he says it's what you see in my work is everything I've ever done or seen basically in his whole life. So it's just a library of lived experiences that then come out through footwear or clothing or whatnot. But yeah, and I think the other really weird thing that happens at a high level, because I've worked at Nike, worked at some of these massive companies, is like the influence of agencies that come in and try and like there's a line item that they have to associate to for their revenue, and they have here's the trend report that are coming out, and it's so like scientific. There's no moments of chaos that are in there that allow people to then do what you do, is experiment and bring like true taste and value to the market, which is interesting. And I think also where you're at, do you feel like you don't have any of that influence that's what's happening coastal? Because that stuff's very real too.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna bring up, where it's, especially growing up, I talked about like Quicksilver and Hurley, like those are brands that I idolize, and obviously they're all like West Coast or New York. And so for a while, I was, especially at Routine, I would design things with palm trees. Like I just did, because like I'm trying to emulate these brands that I, idolize. And I was almost afraid to admit I was from Wisconsin, like a Midwest, because like all the cool people and stuff are like, maybe Chicago and Minneapolis, but like they're not in Green Bay, Wisconsin,
Yeah.
And so it's something I kind of shied away from for a long time. And when I moved back recently, like 2.5 years ago, I just flipped the script on it. And I was like, this is actually a differentiator for me, because everybody is like, coastal. And we have our own things going on here with flannels, and like the tags on my shirts are hunter orange for a reason. You know what I mean? I got the geese and the deer, and like a sweatshirt, I actually have Midwest written on the graphic. Like I never would have done that in the past. But now I think it's lived experiences, and like I need to be out there, and this is what I'm seeing. And so this is what I'm going to design, because this is, I mean, I can see a gas station right now, and a guy just pulled up wearing Carhartt. Not ironically, like he's wearing Carhartt because he's,
blue collar
he has
worker
to.
trying to just
exactly.
go on about his day.
Yeah, exactly. Like deer hunting season's coming up. Like,
how important is like space? Because obviously, like you said, your mom has a studio, and I know designers, artists that live in that world, like how precious studio space is, whether it's an at-home office or like your studio space, like knowing the intentionality that you have when you enter those spaces. Is that like something that's real for you?
100%. So creativity to me is more like, it's like a mood, where it's like, it's the same as happiness, anger, all the emotions. I can put myself in a situation that's going to make me happy, the same as I can put myself in a situation that's going to make me angry. So I try to do the same thing when it comes to creativity. So my studio, it's like 1,500 square feet or something like that, but I got a huge gallery wall, and it's outfitted with art and inspiration, and I've got space for my painting and things like that. So it's especially also, you might struggle with this with having kids.
Mm-hmm.
Family life and then work life are so different, where it's like I can walk into the studio and not cosplay as a different person, but like put on the new hat, and it's like it's time to get creative, and try not to think about what's going on at home and all that. I will say it's not like something I can put on the calendar, like from 10 to 11 I'm going to be creative, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it was just finding out who I am as a creative, and figuring out my patterns, and lucky enough being an entrepreneur, being able to sort of work around those. Like I'm a night owl. It's
Mm-hmm.
become a lot more challenging with kids now. I'm very
Yep.
tired, but like, taking a little afternoon nap, if a 30-minute nap at 3 o'clock is going to get me past bedtime, and then I can like come to the studio and like work,
Yep.
and it's worth it. And like that's when I can be creative and like, put the emails away and the phone away and like focus. And yeah, it's personal preference, but yeah, you got to culminate the mood.
That makes sense. Everything that I hear and research tells me naps are one of the most critical things for us aging adults. The other thing that we probably mutually share, I'd be interested to hear this, just with your take on baseball. I feel like the space also invites like your ability to disconnect, like what you're saying, from the world that's very real, that's happening around you, but also because of sport, you have a level of discipline when you are in that space to be intentional too, which like I have my at-home office, but I have like these glass French doors that open up into my office. And like the other day, my son, 2-year-old son, was cruising by on his scooter in his birthday suit. And it's like, I love this environment, but it's
Yeah.
also like just not distracting enough that there's just chaos going on outside all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was the same thing. Like when I got on a football field, like I had that moment to disconnect, but then the discipline to be fully where my feet were. To your point, like I didn't necessarily need the 10 to 2 time frame to lock in, but it was just new.
Mm-hmm.
I knew when I was in that space that I was going to be super intentional.
Exactly.
Interesting. Well, cool. I mean, I guess the last question that I usually ask everybody on the way out is, in your closet, like, is there anything that you would never get rid of? And like, what does that mean to you? It could be golf adjacent, could be outside of golf, just anything that's been sitting around your closet you won't get rid of.
There's probably 3 of them. One is a Bucks shirt, Milwaukee Bucks, that I got to design.
Mm.
They used to do this like a couple Friday night games. They would like hire local artists or brands to design a shirt, and it'd be like the giveaway for the night. So I got to do one,
Oh,
which
that's
is
sick.
a dream come true.
What year was that?
This would have been like 16-ish.
Did they reach out to you, or did you connect the
No, they
dots?
reached out. Yeah, they reached
Oh,
out
that's dope.
because we had our baseball brand in Milwaukee, which is like kind of known-ish. And so yeah, they reached out, and we had season tickets too, so that helped.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. But my claim to fame with that is I was doing like most people did like the blank shirt and they do the graphic, right? I
Yep.
was like, I want to do a cut and sew color blocked situation because of course I want to make it as difficult as possible.
Total unique. Yeah.
Yeah. And so most of it was creams. This is right after they did the rebrand.
Okay.
Cream was like a secondary color, but cream is like amazing. We're Cream City. Like I want to make a cream shirt. And they like rejected it, and they're like, no, cream is our secondary color. It's got to be green or blue or whatever. And I fought with them back and forth.
Guy.
Yeah, I like fought with them back and forth, and like we finally settled on something where like a good chunk of it was still cream. It wasn't what I wanted, and then like all the internal teams within the Bucks really loved that shirt.
Yeah.
And so the next year they released the city, I think it was the city edition uniforms, and it said Cream City, and it was all cream. And then
that's crazy.
And then then all the merch was all cream. And so I like to think that I spearheaded that. Yeah. I like to think I spearheaded that whole cream movement. The other one was an Adidas shoe that I I collabed with. So Routine and Adidas made a turf shoe, and that was also a dream come true. I was always Adidas guy. And so for me to go to Portland and like in this big meeting room with like the baseball guys and then like Adidas Originals, people like popped in because they were curious. And I'm like up there pitching these concepts, and like just a little dude from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Like that was a amazing moment. And then not only to pitch it, but like for them to like it enough to move forward. And then we sold out in like an hour. Like it was just, the whole experience was amazing. We ended up doing 2 collabs with them, but that first one was really meaningful. And then the third one was my high school hitting jacket. So it's funny, in college, we actually had a class project where you had to go home and pick one of your favorite pieces of clothing, bring it back and do a rebrand for it as a class project.
Dope.
Yeah.
That's dope.
So it was like logo, hang tags, signage in the store, the whole thing. And so here I created an entire baseball brand based off this hitting jacket that I had in high school. Not even realizing that when I left college, like this was an actual thing.
Foreshadowing
it was like,
event.
Yeah. It was like a seed that was planted in my head that I didn't even think about. So that jacket's got some meaning to it too.
Dang, those are 3 bangers. Those are 3 good ones. That's sick. That's awesome. Well, dope, man. I'm glad we were able to connect and link up again. This is a dope conversation. Is there, I guess, on the way out, anything that you want to shout out, keep people paying attention to? Obviously, White Market is doing its thing. Anything outside?
Yeah, Radry, White Dot Market. I teased the Clear guy.
I know. I was gonna say something, but I was waiting for you to say something.
He's en route. So assuming he doesn't fall overboard on the boat, and he gets here, without breaking and all those things, probably mid-October, I think.
Yeah.
We should be releasing the Clear guy. Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
What's his name gonna be?
Oh man, I didn't even think about that.
Don't want to give away too much information.
No, I honestly don't know yet. It'll come to me probably the night before launch.
Dope, man. Awesome. Well, yeah, we're gonna have to link up in person again. Do you think you'll be at the PGA show?
100%.
At the top of the year? Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Same. I'll be there. I'll try not to get sick this time, but
I know.
Yeah, and then outside of that, we're gonna actually have to play some golf too.
I mean, I'll come your way. There's some good golf over there. That's for sure.
I am out in the sticks, and if you do, because you guys are probably rained out and snowed out, it does stay dry. It's cold out here, but we can play well into the winter where I stay.
Okay. I mean, we're good. You can get lucky in November. So I mean, you got like 6 weeks to come visit me. So
yeah, running out of time. Dope. Awesome, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise, dude. Great chatting.
See ya. All right, that's a wrap for today's episode. If you're feeling the vibe, hit that subscribe button and drop us a quick review. It helps us keep the conversation going and growing. For more golf fashion, follow us over at Skratch and Golf Projects. We're always serving up style and stories that make this game what it is. And if you're hungry for even more, head over to Skratch.golf, where our collective stories live. Until next time, dress well and play fast. Peace.